Would you please introduce yourself?
My name is Harry W. Burt Jr., 345-84-44. That's my service number. I was in the United States Navy, 1951 through April of 54. I served 2 years, 6 months, and 15 days. United States Navy. I've done my naval training boot camp, San Diego, California. Was approximately 12 weeks. Got to go back home for 10 days furlough. From there, I went then back to San Francisco. Was shipped out to Guam in the Mariana Islands. Got there, 17 years old, scared to death. And one of the first stories that they told us was there were still Japanese up in the hills. And every once in a while they'd come out and look for food and so forth. And also during my tour of duty there on Guam, which was, tour of duty was 18 months. I was there just a little bit longer because of typhoons, didn't get to come back home. Was there about, I'd say, another 2 months, something like that. Finally got stationed aboard the AFDB-8, which is a floating dry dock. We could take on a light cruiser, anything from a barge to a light cruiser. During this tour of duty, I had the opportunity to see the AFDB-1, which is the largest floating dry dock in the world. Floating dry dock. During this time, we had to go into the floating dry dock, AFDB-1. We were in there approximately 24 hours. They finally dropped us, took us back out and so forth. And the battleship Wisconsin. And I think everybody should see a battleship up out of the water. Well, I got to see it. A battleship up out of the water is huge. Unspeakable whenever you see something like that. They were in there approximately 24 hours. They were on their way to Japan. It was cheaper to take and ship the battleship to Japan for repairs. Somehow it got damaged. I think the bow got damaged. And to see this up out of the water on keel blocks, everybody don't know what a keel block is, but this is where the ship went into. It was huge. I mean to tell you, it was huge. As I said, I was 18 months or plus tour duty there on Guam.
Harry, how did your family feel when you joined the Navy?
Well, my mother and father had to sign for me to go into the service. 17 years old, and I quit early, didn't finish my high school. They both signed, so. But I was 17 years old and leaving Kansas City. First time I'd ever been out of Kansas City, my whole life, and then to go to California and seen a lot of things in California. After my tour of duty on Guam, then I went back then to, got a furlough. Then I went back to Frisco. Then I was sent back to San Diego, and I was aboard the USS Sperry, which is a subtender. I don't remember the number of it right now, but it has a number to it. It was a subtender. And I was a fireman on this for, I think, 3 or 4 months. And then I went back home for another furlough, got married, come back to San Diego and was there. And then finally my wife come out to San Diego. She was there approximately, I would say, not over 2 months. And they turned us loose early. Where I got out a year and a half early out of the service. And I took the opportunity at that time to honorable discharge, and I learned a lot of things in that short time.
What are some of the things you learned?
How to fight fires, how to take care of equipment.
When you were on the Sperry, what was your job?
Well, it was stood watches, run the boats. You could take a boat and put on a ship, but you can't take a ship and put on a boat. Run the Liberty, run the boat, and stood watches on the gangplank, down the engine room.
When you stood watch, how many hours was that you had to?
Approximately a shift would be 4 hours.
And what were your instructions when you stood watch?
Keep everything secure. It was a short time and so forth, and the reason why when they offered it to me to get an honorable discharge and so forth, at approximately a year and a half early, was that I just got married. And when they offered it to me, I took it. And I think one of the things that I remember my last day in my military was when they done the when you get an honorable discharge, and at this time there was something like around 300 or 400 people that got undesirable discharge, and this really stuck in my mind. Well, here I am getting out of the service and being a veteran at the time, that there was this approximately 300 at one time that was undesirables. And it really stuck in my mind, well, these guys didn't make it, and, here I am, made it. I had a wonderful time, and I probably, if I hadn't got married, I'd probably still been in the service.
What are some of those other things that you said you learned from being in the service?
Oh.
To stand out. What were some of your jobs when you were in Guam?
Oh, yeah, you can't imagine. We'd go down this floating dry dock that I was on, and this big shaft, they have what they call wing walls, and you had to go down in there and take micrometers and measure to make sure that these shafts were straight. And here, a 17-year-old, 18-year-old kid doing stuff like that there, and the training that you got. What I always wanted to be was a diesel mechanic, and of course I didn't make that to go into diesel. But in fact, when I was on the Sperry and so forth, it was just at the time where they were shifting from diesel going to atomic. It was a time period there, and they took the subs and so forth, and they were changing them from diesel to nuclear subs. And if I would have stayed in, I'd probably went on. And in fact, I even tried out for submarine duty, and of course I had a leg that was bad, and they wouldn't let me go into the submarine.
Was that leg bad before you got in the service?
Yes, yeah, it was leg that I had before I went in there. It was nothing physical or mentally. And I mean, they asked you, why did you want to? Well, it was $50 more a month.
So why did you want to join the military? What sparked you to want to join the Navy?
More education, and that was my plans when I got out of the service. That I went to trade school and so forth, and was going to further my mechanical ability. Went to auto mechanic school and went through you had to take auto mechanics before you go into diesel. So I.
And that was in California?
No, that was here in Kansas City, Missouri. Okay. I went to U.S. trade school for that, and then after I got my auto mechanic, you had to have it first before you could take diesel, and I gave that up and just went back to work for the school board, Kansas City, and then after that, then I went to what do I want to say? My senior moments. Home.
Did you get letters from home while you were in the service and you were on the ship?
Yes.
Yes?
Yeah, the mail was real good back then. About 3 or 4 days that you'd get a letter then from home telling you what was going on and keeping us informed.
So can you tell us when you were in Guam what the conditions were like, and what was your day like? When you woke up, what did you do? What did you eat? Where did you eat? Share that with us, please.
Well, Guam, I want to say that I just don't know if they cooked on the board the dry dock and so forth. We had a galley, and they cooked real good meals. Never went hungry. Maybe you didn't know what if it was seagull or, but you always had chicken. They fed better on the submarine when I went back to stateside and so forth. Was submarine duty, man. They fed them guys on the subs. They really they got the food.
Can you tell us what your living quarters were like on the Sperry?
It was close. I think it was. You had 4 bunks. You had a top bunk, then the middle bunk or the third bunk, so forth, And then I guess the guy that really got in trouble or so forth to be the bottom bunk. I think I was about second or third bunk. So I was never on the bottom, never was on the top. It was close. The food was good. In boot camp, it was good. You had all you wanted. When I was on Guam, it was the same. The food was good. I had plenty of it. Yeah, and then anytime when I got back on the Sperry, which was the subtender and so forth, we supplied all the subs for the South Pacific, and we had more food than what you could do. In fact, they always told the story about once a month you'd have to go out what they call the 3 mile limit, so forth. And they would always talk about the tugboats that come in and help turn the ship around and so forth. And they always had to push us off the coffee grounds. And this is what, I don't know, it seemed like you had the coffee pot going 24 hours a day. Medical treatment, man, they took care of you. If you had any kind of troubles or anything, they was always. Then you had the Balboa there in San Diego. You had the Naval Hospital there up in Balboa. Never had to go there, so forth. California weather is something else. Everybody liked it and so forth. But it seemed like when I was down in San Diego, when I was up to Frisco and so forth, sometime during the day you'd have rain. I mean, it would come and it would go. The weather was good, California weather,
What did you like to do in your spare time when you weren't on duty? What did you do?
I went to the USO. They done a wonderful job at the USO, and they would have bands that could come in and would play for us. They'd have dances.
Did you have a curfew?
Curfew? Oh. No, I was trying to remember back. Man,
Tell me about more.
Woo. Oh, I during my tour of duty on Guam and so forth, I rode out one hurricane on Guam. Now, I don't remember the dates of it and so forth, but all I remember is that we were down below decks and so forth, and I come up out of the hatchway and opened the hatch up and so forth, and all I could see was water. It was unbelievable. I know I couldn't drink that much water. But I went back down, what they call the wing wall, went back down and was there approximately 3 days before they cleared the area and so forth. I think that was the only bad. Oh yeah, I got to tell you this one. When I left Frisco, going to Guam, I had no idea what it was going to be. 3 days out of Frisco, after you went out and went underneath the Golden Gate Bridge and so forth, 3 days that I laid in a cargo hatch, sicker than a dog. Sick, everybody was sick.
Seasickness?
Seasickness. I wouldn't want to go through that again. When I come back, 14 days going, and 14 days when they shipped me back on the ship, coming back then stateside, didn't get sick at all. I mean, you just finally, I guess, found my sea legs.
Did they give you anything for seasickness?
Go down, go to below decks to the galley and so forth. Get you an orange, get you some crackers and so. But once that you went back downstairs, back down below decks and so forth, and you smelled the what was going on, you wanted to stop and you didn't want to go topside because it was bad. I don't know. They say it's a Japanese current that comes back down through there, and it's always storming out there.
And the waves were pretty.
The waves were bad, sick.
How high would you say the biggest waves were that you experienced?
Oh, well, you talk about 6, 8 foot waves and so forth. It was bad. I'd hate to ride on a ship and be out that many days. 3 days. Can you imagine laying in a cargo hatch? It's just unthinkable.
When you were in Guam, what were your living conditions like?
It was living conditions aboard ship. You're talking about back then, it was all men. I mean, but now they have women and so forth. Of course, they have different quarters than the men do. It was great. All the fresh water you wanted, there wasn't. They talk about having salt water all the time, so forth. It wasn't so. They got to where they know how to purify water.
What did you do in Guam for during your downtime, your spare time?
Well, some of it you can't talk about. Well, there was always something going on. They would have beach parties and so forth, and I would say most of them recreation was kind of funny. Okay.
So, tell us about when you got out of the service then.
Oh, okay. I just got married, and I went back to San Diego. And well, no, I'm sorry, mixed up there. My wife finally come out to San Diego.
Was she your wife then, or was she your girlfriend?
My wife. I'd already married.
Where did you get married?
Got married here in Kansas City, Missouri, and I went back then to San Diego aboard the Sperry and so forth. And approximately a month, maybe 2 months after I come back to San Diego, well, my wife come out to San Diego, and we got us apartment there, lived up in Balboa, just from the zoo. We were 10 minutes from the zoo there, and found out that I had a chance to leave the Navy and so forth with honorable discharge. So I went back and asked Mary, what do you want to do? And she wanted to go back home too. So I went ahead and got my honorable discharge, left, I think it was about another maybe 30 days, or maybe might have been less. And then we went back to Kansas City, went back to work for where I was working at the time, the Kansas City Ice Company. And then I went to work for the school board. Went to U.S. Trade School down 12th and Grand, I think it was.
What did you learn to do at trade school?
Well, I was taking auto mechanics and wanted to go into diesel, and so I finally gave that up and so forth. And I got mad and so forth, and I went over and went to work for the city of Kansas City, Missouri, and as to start off with just a labor's job, and oh, there was a time in there where I got hit by a car, broke my leg and so forth. I was crossing the street, not watching what I was doing, I guess. But anyway, I had to go back to work, so forth. And I just walked across the street to City Hall, Kansas City, Missouri. Went up on the 5th floor of the water department. Told them gave them all my information and so forth. And they wanted to know if I could sling mud. And yeah. So went to work for them as a laborer. And it was about a year, I guess, then I got hit by this car, so forth, and was off work for about 6 months. Had to go back to work, so forth, so I went back to the city, and they took and put me in the water department as a mechanic. Start off with our labor, whatever you want to call it, because I had the broken leg. And I stayed with them for 32 years. And the 32 years, I think there was approximately 25 years as a supervisor in the water department, as a mechanic, repairing water meters. And that's where I retired from. Real good job. Not a lot of money.
How many did you have working for you?
Had, I would say approximately 20 people working for me in the water department, or that I was supervising and so forth. And then also had the opportunity to, on the poverty program, which was back in the, I'd say early 60s and so forth, trained the first two mechanics, women mechanics, trained them, and that was a deal, being all my experience and so forth is working with men, but then to train women was something else. It kind of switched things.
A little different.
Little different.
So you came back to Kansas City and you were married, and then you had children?
Yes, I have 4 children, 3 girls and 1 boy. And then my kids were all grown and about to get out of high school and so forth. We took in 2 girls that Carter was their last name, and we took them in, and they were at the age where they wanted to finish high school. So they finished high school with my 2 girls, my 2 oldest, so forth. And
what caused them to come and live with you, for you to take them?
Their mother passed away, and we wanted them to be able to.
Was that someone that you knew already?
No, we didn't know them, but they had been to our church and so forth, and they were at Northeast High School. Oh boy, there goes Northeast. So they just stayed with us to when they could finish their high school education, and they're all grown up now and all working. I think one of them works here in Independence, and the other one is married to a preacher down Raymore, Missouri.
So you still have contact with
Still
them?
have contact with them both.
How many grandchildren do you have?
Oh, I think seven grandchildren.
Do you have any great-grandchildren?
4.
Wow. So tell us what you do with your time now.
Well, I work at the Palmer Center.
What do you do at the Palmer Center?
They keep me busy washing dishes, pots and pans, or so forth.
You like doing that?
Yes, ma'am, it is wonderful.
Yeah. How many hours a week do you volunteer?
Approximately 4 hours a day, approximately, off and on, so forth. They try to keep me busy, or keep me busy doing something.
And you are remarried now, correct?
Yes, yes. I was married for my first wife. I don't like to talk that way, but was married 50 years and 8 days when she passed away, and then I come here to Palmer Center, and I met one man that had been on Guam at the same time when this battleship Wisconsin went in, and got to meet him here at the Palmer Center. So we got quite a few people here. You never know who you're going to meet that has served in Vietnam, Korea, and so forth. We had High Five. He was a Marine. He got all kinds of Army. You name him, we've got him here.
And who are you married to now?
I'm married to Margaret, my wonderful wife, who's here at the interview with me.
And you met Margaret at the Palmer Center.
Yes, Cupid's Corner.
Tell us about that. Tell us about Cupid's Corner.
Oh, as I said, my wife, she had passed. We were married 50 years and 8 days. And I think it was about 2, maybe 3 years. And I come out here to Palmer Center, was here about a year. And Peggy said, well, why don't you come and join us at the Cupid's Corner? Oh, what is Cupid's Corner? I haven't been out on a date or anything for over 50 years. Who asked who? Do I ask her? She asked me, or what? And so you ask her. So finally I did. I asked Margaret. And we dated for maybe a year and a half, or almost 2 years.
Well, actually, we got married the end of that year.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we got married and been married now 3 years, having a wonderful time.
You want to tell them about?
Well, Harry, I want to say thank you to you for coming in to tape for us today, and I want to thank you for your service to the United States of America, and ask you, is there anything else you'd like to add to your video?
Well, I just I'd say the last 2, maybe 3 years here at Palmer Center and so forth, one of my first things that I remember just recently was it seemed like that just all of a sudden people started saying, thank you for your service. And it was real touching. I mean, served 2 years, 6 months, and 15 days in the service. And then all at once, it's all forgotten, And then having the people say, thank you for what you done for the time that you served in the military.
People appreciate you.
Yes.
Yes, they do appreciate you, and the City of Independence appreciates you, and we thank you for your time in the service.
Thank you very much.